All right, now enough from me. Thank God, because I'm sweating enough as it is already. We're going to begin our proceedings today with our first student speaker, 2004 graduate, Matthew Elwood.
Friends and family, students and fellow graduates. As I stand here before you today, I wondered just how today finally came. It took many hours of diligent work and many reminders to be diligent. It took many hours of dedicated schoolwork and many countless hours on field trips absorbing information. I think you'll agree, more importantly, it took the many countless hours our parents spent teaching us the little things that mattered so much. They struggled along with us through the things we struggled with. They sought to improve on their mistakes by challenging us to rise to a new height. Homeschooling is not the way our parents learned, and they started out on a trail foreign to them, never looking back. They knew what they wanted to accomplish, and here we are today as evidence of their strenuous labor. It's clear to me what our parents wanted for us was to reach a new standard. Through their works on us, they leave their mark on the world. They endeavored to make the world a better place by teaching us the importance of living by God's standards. Look around. I'm convinced they were successful. Our parents thought that we would be marked by godliness and not by this world. As James 1:27 states, but true religion before God the Father is this, to keep oneself unstained by the world. Our parents strove to make it possible for us to pass through this world with fewer of the world's stains, less of the pain they experienced, and fewer of the temptations they faced. They sacrificed in order to give us more opportunity to be all God intended us to be. In a world that tries to fit us into its mold, they raised us to believe there is a better way. We have been raised under the greenhouse of our parents, continually encouraged to be who we are to become, to leave our mark in the lives of others. Our parents taught us to read to enrich the mind, to pray to uphold the mind, and to grow in our understanding of God's plan to stay the mind and the growing knowledge that to be who we are to become, we must first become God's tools. And by becoming His tools, we will shake the earth like others before us. All of us know the famous names of John Wesley, Thomas Edison, and Florence Nightingale. But I wonder how many of us knew they were educated at home by their parents. Thomas Edison was thought by most to be hopelessly unmanageable and was expelled from school at a very young age because his teachers did not understand his brilliant young mind. Mrs. Edison took up the task to teach her young son and nurture the creative mind she saw in her young child. Edison later said, "She was the one who instilled in me the very love and purpose of learning." Florence Nightingale was taught many things by her mother and father, who both took to educate her as best as they could. The most important thing they taught her was a heart for God, and she went on to revolutionize the way the world views nursing. John Wesley was one of 19 children, and some here can definitely relate. He was homeschooled by his mother in all subjects and went on to travel over 250,000 miles to take the gospel to the world. And as I looked through the list, I was stunned to see not only these names as famous homeschoolers, but also the likes of General Douglas MacArthur, Winston Churchill, the British bulldog of a prime minister who helped defeat Hitler, Charles Dickens, the Victorian novelist, and C.S. Lewis, the famed literary critic and lay theologian, respected even by unbelievers for his depths of insight into the human condition, were among many famous figures who were also homeschooled. They left a great mark in the world behind them and affected the world for God. Looking at these examples, I wondered to myself, could the world see more Edisons, Nightingales, and even Wesleys from the class of 2004? The possibilities are endless. We don't have to be famous. Each of us can leave his or her mark on the world. God can be honored, and the world impacted in our ordinary, everyday lives. One example that comes to mind is an older man that goes to our church. He takes a genuine interest in the welfare of everyone around him. He knows everyone's name. And when he greets you, it's not a fake smile, but a genuine, heartfelt greeting that makes you feel like he really is glad you're there. This man would probably be the prime example I know of a person set on leaving his mark on the world, and he has left his mark on me and many others just by making us feel welcome. I invite you to think for a second. I'm sure all of us know at least one person such as this. Perhaps it's a friend, a peer, a relative, or just an acquaintance, but the way they conduct themselves is something you'd like to see in yourself or have others see in you. And I'm sure right now many of you have in mind that one certain person who left his or her mark on you. A person with certain qualities or the desire to have attained the Christian qualities that made them so special. The undeniable glow sparked from a flame within for God. The unfailing desire to follow the will of God. The unshakable faith that God will do what he says he will. Or the undying passion for life fueled by purpose. Quite obviously, the greatest example of these qualities are found in God's only Son, Jesus Christ. While on this earth, he undoubtedly left the greatest impression this world has ever seen or will ever see. Leaving his mark on this world was his mission, his quest, and he was successful. He left after him an unbroken chain of people, his disciples throughout history, who have sought to further his mark on the world. The challenge here is not to aim for fame. It may not matter whether the world knows your name. The greatest human memories will shrivel and fade with time until you become Cinderella in a pumpkin-mobile that faded away at midnight. The challenge here is that we would leave our mark, or rather the mark of God working through us. To change the world, we must seek to impact our peers with the character qualities we have learned along the way. Think for a second. What gifts has God given you that can leave an impression on others? In what way can God use you to leave his mark behind on the world? Our challenge is that we would strive to set a new standard, a height so far above the norm that the world would be shaken. The age-old saying, spread to all nations the gospel, use words if necessary, can become more than a quaint motto, but a voice which cannot be silenced. Class of 2004, we have all heard that graduation is only the beginning, a commencement, yet a beginning. The path of learning will go on throughout life. If we keep learning outside the classroom, it will provide opportunities to leave our mark on the world. Let me leave you with a quote from Robert Louis Stevenson that speaks to all of us, young and old, recent graduates, and those still on the road to graduation. Every heart that has beat strongly and cheerfully has left a hopeful impulse behind it in the world and bettered the tradition of mankind. Congratulations, class of 2004. Now let's go make our mark on this world.